So usually on this channel, what I do is I cover things where it's typically a debate or a heated exchange discussion that's taking place. But with this one, I had to do something a little bit different. In this clip, we're going to see the wonderful Lewis Goodall on his flagship show, The News Agents. I will leave a link in the description so you can watch the full show. But I'm going to give you guys a segment out of it where he absolutely torches Donald Trump. He torches him, and it's just a small segment, but he beautifully and eloquently just lays out the mistakes that Donald Trump has made, where he actually believes that Donald Trump is regretting it now. Listen, I don't want to delve too much into it. Let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to hold my commentary, my thoughts and perspective towards the end, but let's get into it.
Right. I think let's be clear. This is Donald Trump having the biggest presidential paddy that you could imagine, right? Which is that, he knows, I think, and it's just something about the way he's been acting recently and the fact that he's just been lashing out even more than usual. I think he knows in his bones, I think that he's made a mistake. I think he knows and he can see that he started this thing, as we said at the time and many others said, without an end game. He thought it would be over extremely quickly. And he's now looking down the barrel of Iran being able credibly to say, discussion we had about a week or so ago, that not only did they not lose this war, but they're going to come out of this war stronger. Why stronger? Because they've shown the world that they have their foot on the throat, the economic throat of the West, that they will be able to do that again via the Straits of Hormuz, come what may, that they have made it clear to the other countries of the Gulf that they can basically destroy the economic model on which they've built their economic and political success over the last 20 years, which is we're a haven of stability and wealth. Well, no, you're not with Iran on your doorstep. And we're probably looking at a situation where from now on, Iran is not only going to be able to have their foot on the throat of the West, economically speaking, via the Strait, but also they're going to start making loads and loads of cash off the Strait. Yeah. They're already talking about basically making billions of dollars via a toll on the Strait of Hormuz, not just during the war,
tariffs,
but in
Who
perpetuity.
That could be a good idea.
And
wonder where they got that one from.
And Trump is left floundering around. He's left floundering around, wondering why he's not won, faced with basically a choice of declaring victory when everyone knows it's hollow, or going in even further and seizing Hague Island and risking American soldiers and even more political capital. So what do you do when you've made a mistake? You have a go at your friends. You have a go at the people in particular who told you were making a mistake at the very beginning, and I think that's what's happening.
Well, they didn't tell him he was making a mistake because Donald Trump didn't consult on anything before launching this war. Honestly, he really is Captain Chaos right now. That you've launched this war, you haven't achieved your objectives of, one, overthrowing the regime, and two, you've got the Strait of Hormuz shut. Now, forget what it does to Britain and to France and to Germany, even though it is seismic. Donald Trump's allies in the region, in the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Qatar, must be thinking, what the bloody hell? You've started this war against our advice. You're now going to declare victory with the Strait of Hormuz shut, and you are just leaving behind an absolute shit show of epic proportions. And what has anyone got out of this, apart from you trying to, claim a victory when it's so obvious that it's utterly Pyrrhic?
Yeah, and for all that we've been told in the last year of Europe's irrelevance and Europe's weakness and Europe's inability to defend itself, right now there are definitely signs of backbone emerging. The strongest country, I guess, in this regard has been Spain. Pedro Sanchez, who's just said, we don't want you anywhere near us. We are not in any shape or form part of this attack on Iran. I mean, he's a socialist. The Spanish socialists are the ones who held out most last year against increasing their defence spending as well. But he's kind of led the charge.
They're wrong on that, though, I have to say.
Well, the point is that they are in a place where they don't think that Russia is as great a threat to them as the border countries like Poland and Estonia. They think they should be spending more on immigration and...
Sure, but they are in NATO, so...
They are,
Trump
but
wasn't wrong
I
about
mean,
this
we can get it. This is a wider question of the sort of splits in NATO, which tends to take the sort of northern countries in one direction, which is Russia facing, and the southern countries in another direction, which is sort of immigration facing, and all the rest of it. But but what I was going to say was that Sanchez on one side of the horseshoe seems to be joined in this kind of curious way that strange political bedfellows are being made by the AfD of Germany, the Alternative for Germany, which, as you know, are sort of slightly Nazi adjacent, who've been great friends with Trump and with Musk and with Vance over the years. They have come out and called for the withdrawal of all US soldiers from the country. So the far right leader has told a meeting it was time to remove Allied troops and nuclear weapons from Germany in order to pursue an independent foreign policy. When you've got the AfD essentially sending a strong message to Trump on the one hand, and you've got the Socialists of Spain sending the same message on the other hand, and you've got people who are much closer as allies within NATO, within Europe, like Giorgia Meloni of Italy saying, oh, I'm sorry, we've actually got to have parliamentary oversight before we can send planes, before we can do anything. They are now being much more guarded with the help they offer as well. You are starting to see this picture emerge, which is, not quite such a weak Europe, a Europe that's starting to know its mind on this.
I mean, I think that's true. And what is certainly true is that America, one of the consequences of this war is that America is burning through the alliance structures that it has relied upon, whether Trump likes it or not, because he's got this vision that basically America is in a unipolar world where it can just basically do what it wants. That's not true. It's not been true for quite a long time now. It's burning up through its alliances in the Middle East. As John says, they're all going to probably reposition themselves when this war is over. They'll have no choice. Europe will be even more convinced than it was before that it can't rely on the United States. But then that said, it is a two-way street. And I do think that one of the consequences of this in terms of Europe, we've been talking about the Americans sort of moving away from us. I don't really see how anyone after this war can credibly still say that NATO is a going concern. Trump. One thing I totally believe him on is that he will remember all of this. He sees it. Now, we wouldn't see it this way, but I think it's very clear.
He's still trying to sue people from the 1980s.
He nurtures his grievances lovingly.
Exactly right? So, he sees it, and I can obviously, as I say, this isn't how we see it, but he will see it, and he's being very explicit about this, that we are saying, Europe, very loudly, this isn't our war, we're not getting involved. And he said, well, that's exactly what I said about Ukraine, and you said I couldn't say it. And that does have a sort of logic, in his own mind, at least. It is obviously, we know it's different because...
No, because he caused this one. I mean, it's not
I
like...
know, that's what I was about to say.
That's the point.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I know that logic's wrong, but in his own mind, that's how he sees it. And obviously it's wrong because, Ukraine was not Ukraine's choice and this was America's choice. So we know that logic is kind of imperfect. But that is how he's going to continue to see it, which means I do think, Trump's going to be there for another 3 years. And if you are Vladimir Putin, who has done very well out of this war, both financially and politically, the thing I worry about is I'm going to think, if you ever was a moment that you were interested in just pushing at NATO's eastern flank, particularly in the Baltic states and so on, it's going to be the next 3 years as a result of this war and the fact that everyone can see that Europe and America are no longer as one or anything close to it.
If you look at kind of historically, European politicians love the American ones that speak European. And in the current administration, you've got J.D. Vance and you've got Donald Trump and you've got Pete Hegseth who speak pure redneck American.
And Trump speaks gibberish.
Marco Rubio is the one who you kind of look to being the most European sympathetic. And so when he came to the Munich Security Conference, people were thinking, well, that's a voice that's
He's almost a grown-up.
He was almost a grown-up. Listen to Marco Rubio yesterday on the question of NATO.
And I've been a big supporter of NATO. And one of the reasons why I've been a supporter of NATO is because I believe that these basing rights give us leverage and give us flexibility and operational capability all over the world. But if NATO is just about us defending Europe if they're attacked, but them denying us basing rights when we need them, that's not a very good arrangement. That's a hard one to stay engaged in and say this is good for the United States. So all of that's going to have to be re-examined.
America hasn't been attacked, though. I mean, that's the critical difference about all of this. America has not come under attack from Iran. America has chosen to attack Iran, perhaps on Netanyahu's say-so, who knows? But this was America's choice. It didn't consult NATO allies beforehand. It didn't seek congressional authority beforehand. It didn't go to the United Nations beforehand. This was Donald Trump acting unilaterally and acting really miffed that we don't immediately come to his aid now that it's all going to shit. And I think Be reasonable.
I mean, I do think the question of sort of the diverging alliances is going to be a big one, because if you look at who is doing the power broking now in the world, right, that the people who are talking directly to the Iranian regime, the Japanese. Right, the Japanese Prime Minister, new in the job, she's only been elected, a month, and she said, at the time that it is appropriate, I will meet with the Iranian leaders, we will try and find a way of kind of reopening the Hormuz Straits. They are 90% dependent on Hormuz, on Iran, for their own oil supplies. I think that things are starting to shift. You know, the whole, what was that great line, the sort of the plates are shifting and we don't know where they're going to land yet. But I actually think that whoever comes after Trump, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are people who still think it will be J.D. Vance and all the rest of it, but there is a world in which whatever he's done has been so perfect for Europe. It has been so helpful to show the logical conclusion of where someone like him can take the world, that actually you say, well, we've learnt our lessons. We're not, we're not going to do that again, are we? We're not really going to sort of lie back and assume that just being nice to the guy who loves the gold statues and the gold ballrooms and the gold bars and all the rest of it is somehow going to solve the world's problems. We've got that now, and we know what we've got to do, and we only trust America when there's somebody who looks like they actually know what they're talking about.
The problem is that in the meantime, we're still reliant on the American security umbrella. This war is showing something, which is the UK armed forces are not what they were. You know, right now the Royal Navy is basically almost incapable of fulfilling its new responsibilities in the Mediterranean, plus what it's supposed to be doing for NATO. Trump's not totally wrong about that. And you still don't get the sense there is new, quite significant military spending going on in the EU, in particular amongst EU countries, rearmament and so on, but it's slow, and it's probably not, if we were serious about defending ourselves, actually at the level at which it ought to be. And Trump's not also wrong about something else, which is that, he talks about jet fuel. That is going to be a problem. It was funny before he mentioned it today. FT were reporting that the last known shipment of jet fuel to the UK from the Middle East is expected to arrive this week. Yeah. There are no other shipments of jet fuel due to arrive in the UK as far as
this is only just about to hit 2 weeks.
Yeah,
time.
With
the time lag between all those tankers on the high seas that have left Iran and probably...
But there is something really ironic, but there is something really ironic about saying, Trump was right, he has exposed European defence spending weakness with his own war that he started, right? That's the thing that you can't get past. There were ways that Europe could have understood about the deficits of its own defence spending without actually having to run to Trump's help, because he has started a war that nobody was looking for, nobody needs. And when you listen to Marco Rubio, he now says one of the goals of this war is reopening the Hormuz Straits. I'm sorry, that the straits that closed because of the war that you started. We're on a different planet here.
Yeah, well, and
so I'm gonna go ahead and pause it right there. Like I said, I'm gonna leave a link in the description. So if you guys want to check it out, you can check out the full clip in its entirety. Guys, this show, The News Agents, is such a good show. I watch it every single day and I get good insights from it. But there's a few things that it is that I want to touch on from what it is that Lewis Goodall and the rest of the panel said in this clip. So Trump has definitely obviously made mistakes. Everybody can see it. It's clear as day that he has. He genuinely thought this was just going to be a quick in, quick out sort of thing. But the reality is, it's absolutely nothing of the sort. That's the reason as to why now you see what it is that he's trying to say in terms of him saying that they've won the war, they've decimated Iran, they're now going to leave, and then it's up to Europe to figure things out on their own. The reason why he's saying all of those things is plain and simply because we all know, and he knows, that Iran, respectfully, kind of have him by the balls. They do. They have held onto the Strait of Hormuz. They have full control over it. The only way you get through is if you're willing to pay. So that means that's going to enrich Iran. And then if you don't pay, guess what? You face destruction. So people aren't willing to go through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this was all as a result of Donald Trump doing what it is that he done. This was all as a result of Donald Trump starting a war without approaching NATO, without seeking authority from Congress as well, and going against the American people, which the majority of them believe that this war is something that shouldn't be happening. And it's crazy and quite insightful that people like MAGA, but more importantly, this administration themselves, they don't understand the point of NATO. NATO is a defensive alliance. What does that mean? It means what an attack on one is an attack on all. The United States wasn't attacked. They weren't attacked. And this is the point that I just feel these people keep on making. But this is what I say. This is the point that I consistently speak about in the videos when I speak about the right. They will fabricate something and run with it because they know their audience will run with it without understanding facts and reality. NATO doesn't just randomly decide to attack people. That's not what NATO does. But what NATO does is it will stand with when attacked. That's the reason as to why Donald Trump saying the things that he's saying about Europe, when Europe stood with the United States of America on 9/11, is out of line and borderline. Not even borderline, it's just disrespectful. It really is disrespectful. And I'm glad that now Europe are starting to show a bit of spine and stand up against Donald Trump. I'm glad because it's about time that it happened. We cannot consistently just be bending the knee to whatever it is that Donald Trump says just because he believes he is who he is. And the last point that I'll make on this, Republicans need to understand that they shouldn't allow this because Donald Trump is going to go at some point. And when Donald Trump goes, what is then going to be their point of view and their perspective on the importance of alliances such as NATO? This is what I don't understand. What are they going to do? Are they going to form alliances with Russia? With China? Is that what they're going to do? Like, it doesn't make sense to be burning all the bridges. And then you see all of the Republicans from the House, from the Senate coming out and backing up what Donald Trump is saying in bashing and abusing and disrespecting NATO. Don't forget, at the start of this year, Donald Trump was the one who was literally trying to annex Greenland. One of his alliance members. That's what he was trying to do. But then you spend time bashing us, saying that our soldiers barely done anything for 9/11. And then after that, you then turn around and say, we need to come to your aid for something you started. Honestly, that is typical Donald Trump. Just embarrassing in everything that it is that he's saying. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange. Like I said, I will leave the link in the description to the full show of the news agents. I'll leave it down below and you guys can go ahead and check that out. Do me a favor, give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and hype up the video as well. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this discussion from the news agents down in the comment section below. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next clip.